Hello, everybody. Welcome to this call on student loans. What is the fact and fiction around President Biden $10,000, forgiveness of these student loans? And as you know, this is Kenn Neeley. Actually, let me introduce you, Ken, because a lot of people may not have heard our strategy calls or other previous videos. Here at 720 Credit Score, we have sent hundreds and hundreds of our clients to Neeley Law Firm. This is Kenn Neeley, the founder of Neeley Law Firm, to learn how they can either get full discharge of their student loans or partial discharge of the student loans. We're not talking $10,000 here or a $10,000 forgiveness. We're talking 50, 100. Ken, you said earlier your largest discharge was almost $300,000, right?
Correct.
Now, this is what you do not see in the paper, and this is why we're bringing this information, to light. So, Ken, a lot of incomplete information regarding President Biden's announcement. I mean, I'm reading the articles. I'm confused. First of all, give us a synopsis, high-level synopsis of what it really means and what this means over the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. So there were three things, really three key things in the program that were announced, and the first is pretty simple. So the first is that the moratorium on payments and interest that was granted through the CARES Act and started in March or April of 2020, that was extended one more time through the end of December of this year. We're told that's the last extension. Okay, so the repayments on federal student loans will begin in January of 2023. Mm-hmm. So that means now's the time for these borrowers to start to take action to plan for January of next year. And we're going to talk about some tips and sort of some things that those borrowers can do in the next few months to be ready for that. So that was the first one. Second thing is the forgiveness. That's what's getting all the press and attention. It's been on all over the internet and on the TV and on the radio. I heard this morning coming in another report, and that's either $10,000 of forgiveness or $20,000 of forgiveness. The Department of Education says that about 40% of borrowers will receive complete relief. So that means that about 40% of borrowers are either under 10,000 or they're under 20,000, and they got a Pell Grant. So
great. That's a win for those borrowers.
It's great, right? It's great for those borrowers. And I'm not, going to comment necessarily on policy and, the politics of all of this. Everyone will have their opinion on that. But what I will say is, obviously, for those borrowers, it gives them a chance now maybe to say, okay, my student loans aren't going to hold me back from, maybe starting to look to buy a house, to start a family, to do those types of things, which I think is a good thing. So the problem is for the other 60%, right? The other 60% of borrowers, some of those are in the six figures. And if they were in the six figures earlier this week, they're still in six figures of debt, student loan debt today, because 10,000 or even 20,000 isn't going to make a significant dent in their
Ken, one thing, that 10 or 20,000 was just public student loans, right? Had nothing to do with the private aspect.
Right. So let's talk about that. Let me actually just hit the third thing that happened. President Biden, the Biden administration gave direction to the Department of Education to create a new income-driven repayment plan. And I'll circle back and kind of touch on what that is at the end. But now, to answer your question, Phil, let's jump in, because the big piece of this program is the forgiveness. So who qualifies, right? Federal student loans only, held by the Department of Education only.
Okay.
So this is not even all federal student loans. There have been programs in the past, such as the FFEL program, the Federal Family Education Loan Program, where those loans are still held by a bank or a guarantor. Those are not eligible. Now, there's a way to make those eligible. Okay, so we'll talk about that. But right now, those are not eligible. Old Perkins loans, not eligible. Okay. Of course, private loans, not eligible. The federal government can't, through rulemaking authority or through executive order even, cannot eliminate private loans. So that would only be available through bankruptcy, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But it's just federal loans, and it's just loans held by the Department of Education. So that would be direct loans, of course. Since 2014, those are loans made by the federal government and and by the Department of Education. So those, of course, are held by the Department of Education. And then some FFEL loans have been taken over. Some Perkins loans have been taken over. And here's the key. If your loans were consolidated from one of those programs into a direct loan program, now you're eligible. So what if you have, clients or even yourselves, or someone who has a FFEL loan and they want to take advantage of this forgiveness? The prevailing belief is those loans can still be consolidated now and still qualify for the forgiveness. How long will that be available?
Right.
No one really knows. There are a lot of unanswered questions, but the belief is if someone with a FFEL loan that's being called a commercial loan by the press, if they have a commercial loan, it's still a federal loan, it's just not held by the Department of Education, consolidate that into a direct loan, and then that borrower should be eligible. But the sooner the better, right? Because if you wait till next year.
So if you can consolidate, you want to consolidate at this moment.
Yeah, there's really no reason not to.
Where do they consolidate? If someone needs a consolidate, where do they find that out?
It's a program through the servicer. It's an application through the servicer. So what the borrower will want to do, and I'm going to hit this several times in the next few minutes, is go to StudnetAid.gov, create an account. If the borrower doesn't already have an account, the borrower needs to create an account. If they already have one, go in there. They will see who their servicer is. They will also see if they don't know, maybe we have a lot of clients. They don't know if it's held by the Department of Education.
Right. That was my next.
So you go to StudentAid.gov, you log in. Under on the loan information page, it will say servicer, Department of Ed / and then it'll have another name if there's another servicer.
Okay.
If it says Department of Ed / it is held by the Department of Education.
Okay, great. So that's what we're looking for.
Yes.
For anyone that has that Department of Ed /
Yep.
You may be one of the ones that qualify.
Yeah, you should qualify. If it has like a guarantor listed in there, if it has a bank listed in there. When I got my student loans in the late 90s, I borrowed from a bank. It was a FFEL loan. It was guaranteed by the federal government, but I actually borrowed from a bank. So some of those FFEL loans will have a bank's name in there or guarantor in there. It'll just have a bunch of letters like UHEAA, right, for Utah Higher Education Assistance Authority, something like that. That's not held by the Department of Education, but might be eligible to consolidate and get it over to the Department of Education.
And Ken, would private student loans be at StudentAid.gov or not?
Yeah, so that's how you also can figure out if it's a federal loan or private loan, because if it's not in there at all, it's not a federal loan. Okay, it's a private loan.
And what's that URL one more time?
StudentAid.gov.
That's simple. Okay, great.
Aid.gov. Yep.
Okay.
So that's a key site for anyone with student loans, and most borrowers that have federal loans will have already gone and created an account there. But if not, that's a critical step.
Okay.
All right. So now, how do we know the difference between the 10,000 and the 20,000? Real quickly here, 10,000 for anyone who has federal loans that are held by the Department of Education and made less than $125,000 as an individual filing taxes, or $250,000 as a married filing jointly or head of household. Okay. We're not totally positive what years, but it looks like it's going to be if it's either 2020 or 2021. What the announcement said was COVID income. So we think 2020 or 2021, either one probably, if it's below the 125/250, probably qualify. The $20,000 forgiveness applies if the borrower, the student, also received Pell Grants for college. And again, if this was 5, 10, 15 years ago, the student may not, the borrower may not remember if they got Pell Grants. StudentAid.gov, okay, it shows all loans and grants. So StudentAid.gov, you'll see, you go back, it'll show you were in school in 2011. There's your Pell Grant, okay, and now you know you're going to qualify for the $20,000.
So Ken, as things progress, we can do more of these videos. I mean, if you want to be updated on this, just subscribe to the channel. You'll get notified every time we send an email out or we post a new video on this. But I think, it's just so confusing. And the problem is like you've mentioned over and over, we don't know exactly yet, but we will as time progresses.
We will. And there are options, which we will, don't drop off of this call. There are options, even if you or your clients do not qualify for one of these new programs because it's a private loan, because it's not held by the Department of Education, because the loans are too big to where the 10,000 or slash 20,000 doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that, but I want to just make sure that it's really clear what's actually in this announcement.
No, I think that's
all right.
great.
So I want to hit two really common questions I've seen.
Sure.
When is this going to happen? We don't know exactly, right? It's the federal government. Who knows how long it'll take? Probably in the next few months, the program will be fully fleshed out and ready we'll know exactly when the forgiveness will happen, but it's anticipated probably at the beginning of the year of 2023, right? We're not talking years. We're probably talking months, 4, 5, 6 months.
Got it.
So that's been a big common question, right? The other big common question, do I have to apply for this? So there's a little bit of mixed information on that. I listened to an interview of Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona, and he said a couple things. We're going to make it as easy as possible. We have most of the information we already need because we can get access to the income information. And we already obviously know about all the loan information. So they want to make it, his claim, they want to make it as simple as possible. But he did say that there will be an attestation process where people will have to attest that they meet the criteria, which basically means there will be an application, probably a relatively simple application, but there will be an application. So it will be important for student loan borrowers to pay attention, because if they just space out for the next year, they might miss whatever deadline there is on that application / attestation. Okay. So sorry if I want to just at least.
No problem. That's fantastic information.
Yeah. And I'll say, here's my super secret tip for the day that'll make you a hero to all your clients.
Yeah.
ed.gov / subscriptions. That URL, the top checkbox is information for student loan borrowers. If you go to that site, you check the top checkbox, you fill in an email address, you confirm that you want to receive updates and click submit. It literally takes 20 seconds. You will get all updates from the Department of Education telling you like when the application's out, what the deadlines are, what the news is on this new IDR program that I'll briefly tell you what that is. All those updates should come, and you'll be the first to know as an attorney, or if you give that to your clients, to borrowers, they'll be the first to know. They'll be so well informed. They'll be, all their friends and family will love them because they'll know everything about what's going on with these student loan programs and options.
Whether they can understand the information of the Department of Ed is a different story. But that's what we're gonna make it easy.
Yeah, okay. That's exactly true. So let me cover the IDR for 2 minutes, Phil, and then we'll jump into other options outside of this announcement from Wednesday. So first of all, this whole thing was not done by executive order, which is misinformation in the press. All the articles I've seen and news releases I've seen say it's an executive order. It's not an executive order. President Biden actually did this under the authority of he's just giving direction to Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona to make these changes under the authority of the HEROES Act from 2003. So that act gave the Secretary of Education authority to reduce or eliminate student loan debt, and that's what they're using. So it's actually a pretty savvy political move by the Biden administration, because I think it would be easier probably for opponents to challenge an executive order. It's going to be pretty difficult to challenge this rulemaking ability of the Secretary of Education that was granted through the HEROES Act. So part of the announcement was President Biden's administration saying, we've asked the Secretary of Education to create a new income-driven repayment program. This is only going to be applicable for undergraduate loans, and again, held by the Department of Education. Okay, so it's the same eligibility as the forgiveness, except it's even narrowed in a little bit to only undergraduate loans. And it's a much better income-driven repayment plan than any that are currently existing. So it would go down to 5% of the disposable income would be your monthly payment, your monthly student loan payment. And to qualify, there's a much higher income cap to qualify. It's 225% of the poverty level instead of the current programs are either 100% or 150%. So this will help some people. Yeah. The problem is it still has to go through the rulemaking process, and it's probably going to take about a year to do that. And it could change significantly in that time. We don't know exactly what it will look like in the end. So what I'm going to tell my clients, don't hang your hat on this. Like this might be helpful for you in the future, But now is the time to take action, because we now know that there's
Payments are starting in January.
yeah, and it's unlikely that anything else is coming, right? There's no indication that this was step one and step two is coming next year or anything like that.
Yeah.
President Biden has now made good on his campaign promise, and I think he's done with student loans, to be honest with you. I think he's done. So might Congress do something? Maybe, but that's probably unlikely too. I think this is it. What we got on Wednesday is what we're going to get. And so it's now time to take action, take control for student loan borrowers. Take control of your financial destiny. Don't be waiting around for more help. It's probably nothing else is coming, right? This is it. This is what you're going to get. So
okay, so and that's great for these people with $10,000 and $20,000 worth of student loans, and that may qualify for the income-based repayment. Yeah. But Ken, what you're doing is something that no law firm in the country is doing, right? Yeah. You are helping people literally discharge student loans.
Yes.
And they say if someone on this call went to their bankruptcy attorney and said, "Can you discharge student loans?" most likely they would say, "No, it's not possible."
Right.
But you're actually doing it. We've sent you hundreds of our clients. And by the way, if you have a student loan, you can submit your information at studentloanrelief.us. That's www.studentloanrelief.us for a free analysis, right? Absolutely. So share what you're doing, why it's so different, and why it's working.
Yeah. So, I got tired a few years ago of waiting around for legislation to help student loan borrowers, or something like what we got this week to help student loan borrowers, which has helped some people, but isn't going to help everybody. And so I know the prevailing, belief out there is bankruptcy can't do anything for a student loan borrower, or that borrower would have to have such hardship, such disability, such inability to make income that it's almost a mythical. In fact, that word is sometimes used in some of the cases that talk about discharging student loans, a standard of mythical proportions, because it's almost like that person doesn't exist that can prove undue hardship. Well, I decided to find out for myself, and we started filing cases a few years ago, and we've had even unprecedented success that I couldn't have even predicted. Right. I guess I don't. The word unprecedented has been a little bit overused in the last few years since COVID, but it just was even exceeded my expectations. And so far in nearly every case we filed, which is, as you mentioned, we have hundreds of clients. We filed dozens of cases. We're approaching 100 cases filed in the last 2 years, and so far, we've been successful in every one that has reached a resolution. Right now, I don't want to promise anybody that we're going to be 100% successful over time, but what I can say is that it's a high enough success rate that we are doing this work on contingency. Right, we're refunding fees back to student loan borrowers, to debtors, if we don't get them at least partial or full discharge of their student loans, and then if we do get partial or full discharge, we're only charging them a percentage of what we saved them. So there's no downside for the borrower, apart from putting in a little bit of time and effort to provide the information to us that we need. And then we take it from there. We file an adversary proceeding in bankruptcy. And we have found that the I'm calling it a myth now, that bankruptcy can't discharge student loans is just that. It's a myth. It can make significant improvement in the student loan situation for many borrowers. So
hold on, a couple of things, Ken. One, I just want to clarify what contingency means.
Yeah,
that means that if you do not win the case for the borrower, you don't get paid. Correct. So there's no reason for you to take a case.
Yep. If
you're not winning.
This is really one of the few options available to private student loan borrowers, right? Especially if they've already done a bankruptcy. So most of you out there that are going to be watching this, your client base, your database, your list in your CRM are people that have filed bankruptcy. Or
that's what I was going to say. The people watching this, many of them have already filed bankruptcy, and that's the thing. They don't have to refile.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so
you've already done it.
You just didn't get the full benefit of the bankruptcy that you might be entitled to. And so it is a really, it's really a no-brainer to at least investigate whether you deserve more benefit and can get more benefit, or eligible and qualify for more benefit out of your bankruptcy.
So real quickly, once again, studentloanrelief.us. Studentloanrelief.us. Submit your information for a free analysis. That's what Ken's office is doing all day long for, for many clients. Okay, sorry,
yes,
didn't mean to.
Absolutely. No, you're great. So, and then for those people that maybe this $10,000 or $20,000 relief reduces a very large student loan a little bit, but there's still a massive problem sitting there. There's a mountain of debt to deal with. The bankruptcy discharge is a viable option to explore, and we've had great success. It's worth looking into. Free consultation to look at your situation. As you mentioned, Phil, we can't take every case for a couple reasons. One, we can't take it's just not a great case. We feel like there's a chance that it won't be successful, so we can't do it on contingency. There are those cases, but it doesn't hurt to find out if whether or not you qualify. Well, the other reason we can't is because we're getting a lot of inquiries, right? So don't wait around. If you're interested in taking action now, like get your information or your client's information filled out on that form and let us talk to them. Of course, we're going to try to grow, and we're going to try to file as many cases as we can, because the bottom line is we love helping people deal with their student loans and get a more true fresh start out of their bankruptcy than if they just discharge their other debt, their general unsecured debt, but not their student loans.
Well, and also for the people who are listening to this that haven't filed a bankruptcy and feel the stigma around bankruptcy, like, oh my gosh, I could never file bankruptcy. I invite you to pause on that for a second, because many people don't realize. You can go to 720creditscore.com or our Facebook page and look at these success stories. People buy homes 2 years out of bankruptcy, are getting better interest rates on cars during bankruptcy, right, than they currently have. This whole bankruptcy stigma, a lot of it, I'm convinced, is a PR campaign put on by the banks to stop people from filing bankruptcy, right? Bankruptcy it allows people to do a fresh start and move on with their life. And most people do not take advantage of bankruptcy because they just don't understand that. So
absolutely.
Ken, besides, once again, studentloanrelief.us, you can do an analysis. You'll tell people if they're going to qualify under the $10,000 grant or the $20,000 grant.
Yeah.
But is there anything else we need to bring up before we wrap this?
No, just nothing specific around the program, but just a word of advice, which is, I think now is the time to take action on student loans. I have been advising some people to wait and see what the government does, right? Because maybe they owed $18,000, and I thought, hey, it's likely that the federal government might, and they were direct loans, or they were loans held by the Department of Education, and I did advise some of those people, wait and see. You might get 10,000 knocked off that, you might get 20,000 knocked off that, and lo and behold, that's what happened. But for anyone that this doesn't totally resolve their student loan debt situation, then now is the time to act. Now is the time to take administrative action, such as consolidating those loans so that you become eligible. Or if your loan debt is still going to be massive, to look at other options, such as a potential bankruptcy discharge. So now's the time. No point in waiting anymore. In fact, waiting now, I believe, is only going to be causing issues for people, as opposed to being able to wait for some type of relief. And now I think it's only going to create problems to wait anymore.
Especially the more you wait, the farther back in the line you get. They can only process so many. So first of all, go to StudnetAid.gov and figure out what you have. Second of all, consolidate if you can. Consolidate now. Third of all, go to studentloanrelief.us. Submit your information for a free consultation with Neeley Law Firm. Costs zero money, and you're just going to learn some things.
So, absolutely. That's it.
Thanks for bringing on. We will have you back consistently. Keep educating our 720 credit score clients. Ken's information will be below. If you're interested, the website and everything we just talked about below, and subscribe to get updated. Okay, Ken.
Thanks, Phil.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.